Maria Sevilla with Sevilla Body Works. We've been working on skill building. So my last video was about arm balances and both hands down doing planks. That's bilateral work. We're going to continue with arm balances and doing some side planks, and this will be more unilateral work. So what is bilateral and what is unilateral? So bilateral is when both sides are kind of doing the same thing and you're working them equally. Unilateral work is when you're just using one side. Why do we need to do this? Is because we don't live our lives always in symmetry. Lots of times we have to balance on one leg or use one arm. So it's really important to build that strength and mobility through each side. So we're going to get started with our side planks. So like all of our skill building videos here is really about taking one step and getting good at that and then building to that next level. So don't be discouraged, just take it as you can and build that strength and then continue to practice and then you'll get there. So you can start by sitting in, this is called the Little Mermaid position, and my hips are stacked this way, or you can sit in a Z-sit position, which is like this, and I'm a little bit more balanced in my pelvis. My pelvis is a little bit more upright, where here it's more at a side angle. Either one is okay for just this first one. This isn't quite available for everyone, so I'm just gonna go into this one. Okay. So with my knees stacked and my hips at this angle, I'm going to take my arm down. I'm going to review the arm balancing position. When you go into a side plank, you can see my hand is a little bit further out from my shoulder because when I lift up, my body migrates forward and I need to come up on top of that, loading those joints there. So it's a little bit further out and it creates this nice little triangle between my shoulder, my hand, and my hip. You want to press down into the hand. Tripod position, index finger, pinky finger, and then the heel of the hand forms this tripod. I like to think about pushing down evenly between those 3 points, but then also kind of cupping and sucking up. So when you cup and suck up, you co-contract and you use just as much of those flexors as the extensors of the forearm, and that creates that co-contraction support through that lower limb. And then we want to think about from the elbow coming up to the shoulder and supporting the shoulder and staying nice and stable here. So this is a downward into the hand cupping, upward into the shoulder and stabilizing. The hip is down for now, but I want to think about coming up through my rib cage. I'm just going to take the other arm up and do a little stretch here and then come back down. So this is the first thing. And even as I'm doing this, I can start to feel the work of the shoulder and the arm in this position. Okay? So after we do that, and build that skill, you can also try doing the same thing on your forearm. So taking the forearm down, you still want to think about that tripod with the hand, you still want to think about cupping, but now we're a little bit lower and our angles are from the elbow to the hip to the shoulder here. So again, I want to come up, support with the abdominals, pulling the rib up, and then reaching up and stretching here like this. Okay, so that's just building that awareness into your body first and then coming back down. If you have wrist issues and you do want to actually do the full arm extended and not go down to the forearm, the other option is this is just a cut up yoga mat, and fold it as much as you need to and place it underneath the heel of the hand so that the fingertips are down. You still want to think about that tripod, and it helps to reduce the angle in the wrist so it could feel a little bit more comfortable for you. And I would just try it even if you don't have wrist problems, just to see what that feels like. Okay, so that's an option. All right, so the next move would be to lift the hips off the mat. So if you are in a mermaid position, your hands extended, it's going to look like this. I kind of want to get my knees maybe a little bit further back, and I'm going to push myself up. So now I'm loading up the joint. So I'm going to angle here and I'm loading myself up so that my shoulder is right over my hand now. And then my knees are reaching out and I'm using my knees to push down in a way. This allows for this side to come up. So the wider and the more you're pushing down into the bottom ends, the easier for the top end is to come up, and then I'm going to reach that arm up like that. Practicing coming down, I want to keep pushing into the hand. I want to slowly lower the hips so that I'm not compromising my shoulder joint. I'm going to do that again, coming up and then coming down. The other thing I'm doing is squeezing my legs in opposition to my shoulders and then coming down. And it feels quite lovely. This is what it looks like if you choose forearm and down and then lifting and down. Okay, so building a little bit of strength in the arm and the shoulder and in my obliques. Next thing we're going to do is come up to a kneeling position. So moving into a little bit more of the actual full side plank, you can start in kneeling. My shins are down. I'm on this table here, so my feet are kind of dangling off the edge. That's ideal, because if you can't get your feet down like that and you're like this, it puts a little bit more pressure into your knee joint. So my feet are dangling off there, so it's not an issue. But you can also pad up under the knee as well, and that might feel a little bit better if you can't get your foot all the way flat. So kneeling, warming up the hips a little bit here, kind of going back and forth, because I do need to tilt myself over. And then starting here, arms out to the side. I'm going to kickstand this leg out. So when I kickstand this leg, this is my new base of support. And because it's my new base of support, I need to push down into it. I'm abducting the leg here, so I'm feeling my abductors, and then I'm still pushing down into the shin. So this is a little bit of this is a kickstand. This knee is still supporting as well. My arms are going to go out to the side. I'm going to tilt over. I want to load up right over shoulder, over the wrist, and then the other hand is up. So if you feel yourself coming off that outside leg, keep pushing it down and lifting and pushing your hips forward. This is challenging for a lot of people, because if you have tight hips, you can't really get this full open hip position. And then you might look like this. Okay, so if you do have that problem, think about pushing down through the shin, engaging the glute and the hamstring, and then really reaching forward that way. And again, it takes a little bit of practice, and then coming back up. Okay, so then the next part of this is to extend the leg and go into that full side plank. So my hands are out, and I'm going to go down here like this, and then I'm going to extend this leg out. Now this could seem a little precarious because I have to come off of this knee. The best way to do this is to push down, push down. So foot and hand push down, lift up through your core so that you can pop that knee off, and then you can send it back. So I'm going to send it back because eventually we're going to move into the twist. So if we move into the twist, we don't want our legs getting us all tangled up here. So here's my side plank. I'm pushing down through my knees. My feet are separated, so the more they're separated, the easier it is to hold that base of support down. In yoga, they like to stack up the legs a little bit here, which is a little bit more challenging because there's less surface area here. So you could always try that if you wanted to. Again, more advanced. So I'm just going to come back into this and then gently come back up. Okay, so reviewing that, if this isn't great for you because your hip flexors are really tight and you end up being more like this, you can come into that full plank position from our mermaid, which is from here, coming up, and then gently taking those legs out. That might be a little easier for you if you do have those hip flexion or those tight hip flexor issues. And then coming back down. Okay. Whew. All right, so now we're going to move into the twist. Actually star and then twist. So star, taking one of the legs out of that base of support and then lifting it up. Okay, so I'm going to take myself, I'll do that other version, or I'm just going to come up like this, slide the legs out. Okay, so for this one, I want my supporting leg to be more lined up with my hip. So I might be a little bit more narrow in my stance here for now. And then pushing down, reaching my legs down, and then I have to abduct my top leg. So as I lift it up, I'm pushing equally into both legs. Okay? And then gently coming down. So that's our star. In order to do that well, you need to think about really pushing the two legs apart. So as the top leg is going up, I'm pushing the bottom leg down. I also need to reach my legs away from my torso so I'm not over loading up my shoulder joint. You don't want to let all your weight come into your shoulder joint. Push the floor away. Just like when we did our arm balances. Squeeze those glutes, engage the inner thighs. Okay, so the last one is the twist. So the twist, you move out from the side plank and you're moving down into a twist with the hips up. It is an advanced version. This is where the skill gets built into. So again, starting from our mermaid position, sliding my legs out, you want to make sure that that top leg is forward so you don't get tangled up into your legs. And I've showed you almost all of these positions with the top leg forward because it does move into the twist. You can do your planks the other way with the top leg back. That gives you a little bit more open hip. You can do those too for sure, but if you want to move into the twist, make sure that top leg's forward. Okay, so here we go. We're going to lift our hips up, slide the legs out, and then we're in this position. I'm pushing down through my feet. I'm lifting my hips up, squeezing the inner thighs, holding it here. Now, push the floor away first, lifting your hips up to get that space to bring your arm through. As I'm pushing, I'm pulling my hips back, and then I'm going to reach towards my opposite leg. So it's my left hand towards my right foot and my hips up in the air, and this is my new tripod. Hard to do this when my top of my head is down. And then gently coming back into the side plank and then lowering these legs. Let's take a twist into the opposite side and then gently coming back. Practice them on both sides. Remember, this is unilateral work, so I did all of my right. Next, I'm going to do my left. If you feel like your wrists get it's what I call wristy, and you feel a lot of pressure in your wrists, make sure afterwards you're doing some work here to relieve that pressure, rolling those out and doing these stretches back and forth. It'll help. So I hope you really love this video. Work on building the skill. You'll get your side planks, I promise. Thanks again.